Okay, let's move on to the Player of the Year, and we've got one guy in our area playing for in the U.S. Army All-American game. Would Austin Mack be your Player of the Year?
Yes, he would, and I think you can make a case for other people. Isaac Stiebling, you mentioned Isaac Stiebling of Snyder, just played a tremendous game in the state championship game and really showcased his abilities. Kind of a sidebar, during that game I said, he could really be a Jesse Bates-esque guy where late in the recruiting cycle he could all of a sudden get a couple Power 5 conference offers and maybe have a lot to think about. So Jesse Bates was a Toledo commit for so long, eventually ended up at Wake. Wouldn't be surprised if Isaac Stiebling, something similar happened with that. IU and Purdue, I mean, can you make a case? IU, is Xander Diamont really a better quarterback long term for the Indiana Hoosiers than Isaac Stiebling would be?
Stibling's got all the tools at 6'5", big
I know,
good
he can
decision
run.
making and can run.
Yeah, so I digress though. Isaac Stiebling up there, but Austin Mack to me is the Player of the Year. You mentioned All-American game. If he would have played a complete season, he was out there with a concussion for a little bit. Would have been more lopsided, in my opinion. I mean, that kid going into this year, you'd look at the recruiting rankings and you say, man, he's ranked up there, but we really haven't seen that dominance. We see the potential. We haven't seen the dominance. This year was the dominance. It was really a handful of games. It was a man amongst boys where it was just almost laughable with guys trying to bring him down and his moves in the open field and stiff arms. I mean, just a tremendous player, tremendous mismatch against everybody he played. Luers did a tremendous job moving him around to get the ball in his hands everywhere they could, and he made plays, offense, defense, at safety, and in special teams. He's my Player of the Year.
He's my Player of the Year too, and I think you have to take into account the numbers are impressive. The 24 total touchdowns. He did it a variety of different ways. 3 kickoff returns, a punt return, interception return. Not to mention, the rushing touchdowns, 13 of those, the 6 receiving touchdowns. His numbers would have been even better had Noah Wazinski been healthy this year. At least I believe they would have been.
Yeah, maybe wouldn't have seen him as much in the Wildcat, obviously,
Sure.
as what he was. Maybe not as many rushing touchdowns, but for sure the receiving yards would have went up, and he would have really thrived even more with Noah in there.
I had Stiebling as my number 2 guy. I think that's pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
So many weapons on that Snyder offense, but you need a guy that can get the ball, get them in the right positions, can make the right play. He did that all season long. I mean, you're talking about from day one. I had him at the midpoint of the season as my MVP. Matt kind of took over. The Carroll game kind of opened everyone's eyes if you weren't on page with that, and he was fantastic throughout the rest of the season. But Isaac Stiebling, a very strong, in my opinion, number 2.
Yeah, number 2, and then I would go Amon Clark, number 3. I just think, with his running abilities with Dwenger, you looked at that offense. It was never flashy. It was never even close to what a Snyder was. Weapons everywhere. You just had a couple guys that just could make plays for Dwenger. And Amon Clark, undersized kid, but tremendous heart. Never got tired, seemingly. I mean, he could carry the ball play after play after play after play after play. Never seemed to get tired. He's my number 3.
I had my number 3 as Mitchell Van Brocklin out at Woodland. I know, it's 2A, it's not the SAC, but here's a guy who did it on both sides of the football. You saw him many times defensively in some of those close games at the end make the stop as a defensive lineman, make the stop there. He also had over 1,800 yards rushing. You lead Woodland, who was a program way back there had some tradition, but recently not so much. You lead them to semi-state. They go to Whiting. They make that tough trip to lose 14-7. They could have very well been in a state championship game had things turned out a little bit differently on a very snowy Saturday. So I got to put Mitchell Van Brocklin up there. He was fantastic and a load to bring down no matter what conference I think you play in.
Yeah, no doubt. You look at that in between. Like you mentioned, offensively, a tremendous running back, and then defensively, I think we undervalued him defensively just because we were focused so much on offense. But a tremendous job up front. He was part of a couple big-time goal line stands for Woodland throughout the year.
Yeah, he made IFCA top 50 All-State as a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
So pretty good on defense. It takes into account his offense too. I know
True.
that.
Yeah, but it's not pigeonholing him on defense just because he played there to make sure he gets his offensive honor. I mean, he's a legit good defensive player.
All right.